The galactic dominion was ancient. Empires rose and fell under its rule, but one truth remained: weaker species obeyed, and the strong dominated. When humanity made first contact, the Dominion barely paid attention. Another primitive race from a backwater world, barely out of their own gravity well. Their first interstellar ship was a crude fusion-driven vessel that would take decades just to reach the nearest habitable system. The Dominion's ambassadors arrived in Earth's orbit, their ships gleaming with centuries of technological refinement. The galactic overlords had encountered thousands of species, and they had a ritual for integrating new civilizations, a display of dominance. The Dominion would demand obedience, mock their weaknesses, and let fear do the rest. It always worked. On the day of first contact, a massive Dominion battleship hovered over Earth's largest cities, broadcasting a message across every screen, radio, and neural link. Humans, welcome to the Galactic Dominion. Your kind is weak, your weapons obsolete, your science primitive. Kneel before us, and you will be spared. Resist, and your world will burn. And then, to emphasize their power, the Dominion performed the same ritual they had enacted on countless worlds before. They targeted Earth's military satellites and wiped them out in an instant. The night sky flickered with falling debris, charred fragments of humanity's feeble attempts at defense. The message was clear: you are nothing. At first, the reaction was silence. Then, something unexpected happened. Humanity laughed. Across Earth, from generals to scientists to ordinary citizens, laughter erupted in response to the Dominion's message. Not fear. Not submission. Laughter. The Dominion's leaders were confused. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. They had just rendered Earth defenseless in orbit. Why was humanity reacting as if it were some kind of joke? Then, a reply came. A single transmission, broadcast from Earth's surface, relayed directly to the Dominion's warship. A man, middle-aged, wearing a simple military uniform, stared into the camera. His expression was calm. His words, however, were anything but. You destroyed our satellites? Cute trick. Do you have any idea what you've just done? The Dominion commander scoffed. Empty bravado, this was another doomed species trying to sound brave before their inevitable subjugation. But then the man continued. You see, we don't rely on fancy orbital weapons. We don't need satellites to wage war. We never have. We're very good at fighting in the dark. And when we fight, well, history speaks for itself. Before the Dominion commander could issue an order, an alert blared across the bridge. Unidentified projectiles, hundreds of them, had launched from Earth's surface. The warship's AI tried to calculate their trajectories, but the Dominion officers soon realized the horrifying truth. The humans weren't aiming for them. They were targeting their own falling satellites. With pinpoint accuracy, hypersonic missiles obliterated the Dominion's handiwork, reducing the flaming wreckage to harmless dust before it could ever reach the ground. Then came another shock. Earth's defenses, which they thought had been wiped out, were suddenly operational again. Somehow, alternative command centers had already taken control. Within minutes, Earth's remaining satellites re-established their networks, and military forces prepared for war. The Dominion commander narrowed his eyes. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Then, the man on the screen spoke again, his tone ice-cold. You wanted to make an example of us? Fine. Now, it's our turn. The transmission cut out. And in that moment, the Dominion realized something unsettling. The humans weren't just laughing because they found the Dominion weak. They were laughing because the fight had finally begun. The Dominion warship, Varnok's Fist, was built to enforce absolute authority. It had conquered countless worlds, crushed rebellions before they could begin, and humbled entire civilizations with its sheer presence. And yet, for the first time in its long history, the ship hesitated. Commander Kelter, an Arcanian warlord with decades of victories under his belt, clenched his mandibles in frustration. The humans' reaction had been wrong. They were supposed to cower, to beg for mercy, not challenge a Dominion battleship. "Status report," he barked. His officers scrambled. "The humans, they intercepted our orbital strike with primitive weapons. Their planetary defenses are online again. We expected their infrastructure to collapse, but they adapted almost instantly." Kelter's red eyes flared. "They adapted? We wiped out their satellites." "Why yes, Commander. But they seem to have redundancies. Backup communication networks, alternate control systems, old hardwired relay stations, systems so outdated that our interference protocols don't account for them. Their military is still fully operational." Kelter's fists curled. Fine, if a show of force didn't work, then he would simply take the battle to them. "Deploy ground forces. I want their capital secured within the hour." 1,000 Dominion warships began their descent into Earth's atmosphere. Dropships, bristling with weapons, roared toward major cities. Dominion infantry, genetically engineered warriors, cybernetically enhanced and trained from birth, readied themselves for what they assumed would be an easy conquest. They were wrong. As the first wave of Dominion troops landed in New York City, they encountered silence. The streets were empty. No resistance. No panicked civilians. Kelter smirked. Asterisk, they've fled. They know resistance is pointless, asterisk. But then, the first Dominion patrol stepped into Times Square. The moment their armored boots touched the pavement, the trap was sprung. The buildings surrounding them came alive. Windows shattered as hidden snipers opened fire. The streets erupted in explosions, homebrewed IEDs, makeshift traps that shredded the Dominion's finest warriors. From underground tunnels and hidden alleys, human soldiers and armed civilians emerged like ghosts, executing ambushes with ruthless efficiency. The Dominion's advanced energy weapons, designed for large-scale planetary conquest, were powerful, but slow. Their soldiers relied on armor to tank shots, their shields to absorb heavy hits. They expected drawn-out, large-scale battles. Instead, they got urban guerrilla warfare. Humanity didn't fight like other species. They didn't line up in formations. They didn't fight fair. They fought dirty. Dominion warriors were dragged into alleyways, their throats slit before they could scream. EMP devices, primitive, yet devastatingly effective, shut down their cybernetic enhancements, leaving them slow and disoriented. Within minutes, the first wave of Dominion forces was in chaos. The same pattern repeated worldwide. In Moscow, Dominion walkers were funneled into narrow streets, where they were set upon by fast-moving armored units using old but effective anti-tank weapons. In Tokyo, Dominion forces found themselves fighting not just military forces, but organized civilian resistance, engineers, hackers, even street gangs, turning the city's neon-lit underworld into a battlefield. In Rio de Janeiro, the favelas became a nightmare for Dominion troops. The winding streets and chaotic structures gave humans a home field advantage they exploited mercilessly. Kelter watched in horror as his battle reports poured in. Asterisk, Commander, our forces they're losing. The humans fight like animals. Asterisk. No, not animals. Monsters. Then, the final blow came. A new transmission appeared on the Dominion's warship, originating from deep within the human military command. It was the same man from before. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with something dangerous. Asterisk, you thought we were weak. That was your first mistake. Asterisk. The screen flickered. Then, to Kelter's horror, Dominion ships in orbit began exploding. Earth's forces hadn't just defended themselves. They had taken the fight to space. The Dominion had underestimated humanity at every turn. It was no longer just a ground war, it was a war that spanned the very sky itself. And the humans, though seemingly outmatched, were determined to make their mark on the stars. Commander Kelter was on the edge of fury. His warship, Varnok's Fist, was meant to be an impregnable fortress in orbit, yet it had already taken several hits from human projectile weapons, crude but effective kinetic rounds, enhanced by the planet's atmospheric drag and fired from long-range artillery on Earth. Each strike reverberated through the hull, threatening the very integrity of the ship. The humans hadn't just fought on the ground, they had used their remaining satellites to launch a counteroffensive, firing from every possible angle. We must respond now," Kelter hissed, his voice low and dangerous. "Commander, we still have control over our fleet's defenses, but it's a matter of time before we're overwhelmed. The human weapons may be primitive, but their targeting systems are incredible." One of his officers, a young Arcanian named Vesh, trembled as she spoke. "We cannot afford to delay." Kelter's red eyes flicked to the screen, where Earth's forces were launching more and more ships into space, more than he could have imagined. It was clear now that the humans had secretly constructed fleets of their own in hidden orbital stations, using technology far beyond their apparent capability. Some of these ships were patched together remnants of old space programs, others were newly built, hastily designed, and bristling with weapons scavenged from Earth's last stand. The Dominion was used to seeing such improvised vessels go down in flames, but this was different. The humans fought like they had nothing to lose. He made a decision. Deploy the entire fleet. We're taking the fight to their homeworld. As Kelter's orders went out, the Dominion fleet began its descent from orbit, plunging toward Earth's surface. But even as the first waves of warships prepared to break through the planet's atmosphere, they encountered a new nightmare. Humanity had learned to fight on every front. The battle over Earth was no longer confined to the streets or the sky, it was now a space war. The first strike came from the Hunter, a human battleship modified from an old cargo freighter, packed with experimental laser weaponry and defensive shields powered by nuclear reactors. The Dominion's advanced sensors were momentarily blinded by the sheer intensity of the blast as the Hunter fired its main cannon, a beam of concentrated energy that tore through a Dominion destroyer. "All units, engage!" Kelter shouted as his fleet began to retaliate, but the humans were everywhere. Outnumbered and outgunned, they turned every asteroid and scrap of space junk into a weapon, launching makeshift mines and projectiles with remarkable precision. The Dominion ships had advanced weaponry, but they were not prepared for the ingenuity of their enemy. One by one, Dominion warships fell to human tactics. The humans were relentless, using everything they had at their disposal. Hacked Dominion drones turned against their own creators, ships cloaked in stealth technology, and even solar sails, primitive but effective, catching solar wind and propelling the ships forward with surprising speed. It wasn't just their technology that shook Kelter's confidence, it was their ferocity. Every single human soldier, every commander, fought with a tenacity and resolve that he had never encountered. The Dominion's cold, calculated tactics were being torn apart by the raw, undying will of a species that had nothing to lose. Kelter knew then that they were no longer facing an inferior race. The humans weren't just defending their home, they were fighting to protect their way of life. This wasn't a war of conquest. It was a war for survival. Amidst the chaos, a new transmission came through, this time directly to Kelter. It was the man again, the one who had first mocked them. The one whose calm voice now rang through the silence of the Varnox Fist Bridge. Asterisk, do you finally understand, Commander? Asterisk. Kelter's fists clenched. I understand more than you think. No, you don't, the man replied. You're about to lose everything. You've underestimated us, and now it's your turn to fight with the same desperation we fight with. As the man's image flickered out, the Dominion's last ship entered the planet's atmosphere. They had lost, horribly. The tide of the battle had turned. The humans had not just fought back. They had made sure the Dominion would never forget what it meant to underestimate the heart of a species that had only just begun to show its true power. The Dominion fleet was broken. Shattered warships burned in Earth's atmosphere, their once gleaming hulls now twisted heaps of molten metal. What had begun as an overwhelming assault by the mighty Dominion had turned into a retreat, with scattered forces scrambling to escape the wrath of a species they had dismissed as inferior. But the humans were not done. Far from it. As the remnants of the Dominion's armada retreated into deep space, the humans were not content to simply wait for another assault. They had made their stand and, now, they were taking the fight to the stars. Commander Kelter had never known fear like this. He watched helplessly from his command deck as reports streamed in. His fleet, once an unstoppable force, was now little more than a scattered band of survivors, struggling to maintain any semblance of order. They were not supposed to be able to do this. The humans had turned the tides. They had shown that they could not only fight, but adapt. It wasn't just their weapons or tactics. It was the sheer, unyielding spirit that defined them. They had stared down their invaders and fought with the desperation of a species fighting for its survival. They had never believed in surrender. "We can't keep running," Kelter muttered, clenching his jaw. "Send a message to the remaining fleet, prepare for the final push. We are not retreating." But deep down, he knew the truth. There was no final push anymore. The humans had already won the first battle, and they were hungry for more. Earth had not only survived, but it had flourished in its resistance. What Kelter had thought was desperation was, in reality, an undeniable force, a force that had united every human, from every corner of their world, against the invaders. It was no longer about defending the planet. It was about ensuring that the Dominion would never threaten them again. The human strategy was simple: hit hard, hit fast, and leave nothing behind. In the weeks following their victory in space, the humans launched a series of surprise attacks on Dominion outposts scattered across the galaxy. Their tactics were devastating. Small, lightning-fast strike groups descended from stealth, hitting Dominion's supply lines and installations where they were most vulnerable. They had learned from the Dominion's own brutal methods, targeting their enemies' weak points with surgical precision. One such strike, led by a decorated Earth commander known only as Hunt, left an entire Dominion colony in ruins. Hunt and his team infiltrated the Dominion's heavily fortified base, using underground tunnels, sabotaging equipment, and planting explosives in strategic locations. When the Dominion forces responded, it was already too late. The humans were gone, leaving nothing but the smoldering wreckage of their enemies' operations. Kelter seethed as he watched the broadcasts of these raids. Humanity was doing what no one had thought possible: they were waging war across the galaxy, with a ferocity that sent shockwaves through the Dominion's leadership. Every victory, every destroyed outpost, only fueled the fire of resistance. And then, the most unexpected blow came. The humans launched a counter-invasion, directly into Dominion-controlled space. This was no longer a defensive war, it was an offensive assault, a move so bold and unexpected that it rattled the Dominion to its core. The attack began with the human fleet striking the heart of the Dominion's command center, a massive, centuries-old station that controlled the coordination of all Dominion fleets. It was a symbol of their power, their seat of control. And now, it was under siege. The Dominion's ships tried to respond, but the humans had already anticipated their moves. Using their own advanced stealth technology, they infiltrated the core of the station, launching a ground assault that crippled the Dominion's central command network. In less than a day, the once impenetrable station had been overrun, and the heart of the Dominion's military communications was reduced to rubble. Kelter could hardly comprehend it. How had they done this? He had underestimated them for the last time. The humans were no longer just fighting for survival, they were fighting for vengeance. And the Dominion had no idea how to stop them. In his most private moments, Kelter began to wonder if it was already too late. They had dismissed humanity as nothing more than a fleeting annoyance, a species too weak to matter. Now, their greatest mistake was glaring at him from the edge of oblivion. "All units," Kelter said quietly, his voice hollow. "Prepare for a full-scale counterattack. We will not let them take our worlds." But even as he spoke, he knew that the Dominion had already lost. The humans had proven that they could fight, and win, now, Earth was not just a symbol of resistance. It was a beacon of defiance. And that, more than anything, was what would destroy the Dominion. The Dominion had never known fear like this before. For the first time in their history, they were the ones on the defensive. The humans, a race they had once dismissed as weak and insignificant, had become a threat beyond reckoning. Each day, new reports of raids, ambushes, and surgical strikes on Dominion territory piled in, and each day, the Dominion's grip on their empire loosened further. They could no longer pretend that this war was anything less than a fight for their very survival. Commander Kelter stood on the bridge of Varnok's fist, his knuckles white as he gripped the armrests of his chair. The reports were grim. One by one, Dominion worlds were falling to the relentless onslaught of human forces. The humans had come not only to defend their planet, but to dismantle the Dominion's empire piece by piece. Kelter had always been a warrior, a leader who had won countless battles across the galaxy. But facing the humans now, it was as if they were everywhere. Their tactics were unorthodox, unpredictable, and yet deadly efficient. They didn't fight like the Arcanian military, with disciplined lines and rigid formations. They fought like a flood, relentless, unpredictable, and capable of overwhelming anything in their path. In the past, the Dominion had crushed rebellions with ease. But the humans were different. They were united, and they were relentless. Each victory, no matter how small, seemed to fuel their next attack. They didn't just fight for their survival, they fought for the future of their species. The communications console on the bridge flickered. Kelter's eyes narrowed as a message blinked across the screen. It was a direct transmission from the highest-ranking members of the Dominion Council. Kelter, the message began, *, this war is a mistake. The humans are not to be underestimated. We cannot defeat them with brute force alone. Their resolve is unmatched. We suggest negotiating for a ceasefire, or risk total annihilation. *. The words hit Kelter like a blow. The Council, the very heart of the Dominion, was considering surrender. Kelter's fist slammed down onto the console. No, he growled. We will not bow to these humans. They will submit to us. I will not allow this to end in defeat. But deep inside, Kelter knew that the humans would never submit. There was no negotiating with them, not now. This war had moved beyond the point of diplomacy. They would either crush humanity completely, or the humans would do the crushing. It was a question of which species would survive, and Kelter wasn't sure the Dominion had it in them to win. Prepare the fleet for a counterattack, Kelter barked, his voice thick with fury. We take the fight to Earth itself. The order was sent, and the Dominion forces began to regroup, their ships rallying around their remaining strongholds in deep space. The final push had begun, the Dominion would make its last stand on Earth, the cradle of humanity. They would either crush the humans once and for all or die trying. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans were far from being cowed by the Dominion's threats. They had long known that this moment would come. The Dominion, realizing they were losing, would eventually throw everything they had left at Earth, desperate to reclaim their shattered empire. But humanity had a plan. The heart of their resistance wasn't just in the massive fleets they had built in secret. It was in the minds of every human soldier, scientist, and engineer who had contributed to the war effort. They knew that the Dominion's strength lay in its technological superiority, but the humans had learned to exploit that. They had developed weapons that could level the playing field, disrupt the Dominion's technology, and even turn their greatest strengths into weaknesses. The moment the Dominion fleet emerged from deep space, the humans were ready. Earth's surface shimmered with the hum of energy shields, and new kinds of weaponry had been deployed across the globe. The true power of humanity had always been its adaptability. When the Dominion thought they were unbeatable, the humans had made sure they learned and adapted. They had not just defended Earth, they had prepared for the inevitable counterattack. Every city, every nation, every community had become part of the war effort. As the first Dominion ships began to approach Earth's atmosphere, humanity's defenses were already in place. Energy pulses fired from hidden bases, lancing through space toward the Dominion fleet, striking with an intensity that sent shockwaves through the invaders' vessels. Massive shield generators blinked to life, protecting Earth's major cities from orbital bombardment. And in space, the human fleet stood ready, launching its own attack. Their ships were smaller, more agile than the Dominions, and they had learned the art of stealth. Human forces engaged the Dominion in a brutal, chaotic battle in orbit, with no quarter given. Every strike, every ambush, was a message: humanity would not be subdued. Commander Kelter watched from the command deck of Varnok's Fist as the battle erupted across the stars. And as he did, a terrifying realization washed over him. The humans had come for the heart of the Dominion, and nothing would stop them from claiming it. The Dominion fleet was on the brink of annihilation. What had begun as a desperate counterattack was now unraveling in the face of humanity's relentless will. Commander Kelter stood at the helm of Varnok's Fist, his mind racing as explosions flashed outside the ship's reinforced windows, lighting up the dark void of space. The human fleet, scrappy, unpredictable, but efficient, had torn through their defensive lines like a storm through paper. It was clear now. The humans had played their hand brilliantly. They had used every tool in their arsenal: guerrilla tactics, advanced weaponry, and an insatiable drive to win, to push the Dominion to the brink. Every move the Dominion made had been countered, every strategy exposed for the flaw it was. The battle for Earth was no longer a question of if the Dominion would lose, it was a matter of when. Kelter clenched his fists. He had never known a foe like this. He had seen empires fall before, but never with such suddenness. Never with such ferocity. And never, in his wildest nightmares, had he imagined that the humans, with their primitive technology and crude tactics, would bring the mighty Dominion to its knees. The battle in orbit raged on. Human ships moved with precision, coordinating attacks on Dominion vessels with a synchronization Kelter couldn't fathom. Each strike seemed to pierce their defenses with pinpoint accuracy, and their own counterattacks were becoming slower, weaker. "Commander, we are losing communications with the outer fleet." Vesh, his communications officer, reported in a panicked voice. "The humans have deployed a new kind of weapon, it's scrambling our signals, disorienting our forces." Kelter slammed his fist onto the console. "I know what it is. It's their disruptor tech, we've encountered it before in the outer systems. It neutralizes our sensors, jamming our communications and targeting systems. It's ancient technology, but they've adapted it into something far more dangerous. We're being overwhelmed by their unpredictability." Kelter's heart raced. There was no easy way out of this. His fleet was scattered and disoriented, while the humans fought with the unity and determination of a species that had everything to lose. On the surface of Earth, the humans were not resting either. Their defense was just as aggressive, and they were not simply waiting for the Dominion's inevitable retreat, they were making the final push. They had learned long ago that the key to survival was not merely defense, but a balance of offense and innovation. In hidden underground bunkers and laboratories, human scientists and engineers had been working tirelessly on a secret weapon, a weapon that would end the Dominion's reign once and for all. It was something Kelter had not even considered: a virus. Not a biological plague, but a digital weapon that would target the heart of the Dominion's technology, its very neural network, the AI systems that controlled everything from their battle fleets to their planetary defenses. It was a simple virus, but devastatingly effective. It would spread through the Dominion's technological systems like wildfire, taking down their entire infrastructure and leaving their fleets blind, crippled, and at humanity's mercy. The virus was launched from Earth's underground facilities, embedded within several drones that streaked toward the heart of Dominion space. As the human ships and ground forces continued to press the attack, the virus began its silent work. Kelter's eyes widened in realization as the first reports came in: the Dominion systems were failing. Fast, the virus had already begun to corrupt the AI-controlled elements of the Dominion's command network, turning their once impervious infrastructure into a tangled mess of glitches and errors. "Commander, it's happening," Vesh gasped. "Our ships, they're no longer responding properly. The AI system is in chaos. The virus is spreading faster than we can stop it." Kelter staggered back in disbelief. The Dominion had relied too heavily on its advanced artificial intelligence for their operations. And now, that very dependence was their undoing. Without their AI, their fleet was lost. Their communications were compromised. And their entire empire was on the verge of collapse. Back on Earth, the human leaders watched as the digital strike took its toll. The Dominion ships in orbit were becoming helpless targets, drifting aimlessly as their internal systems crashed. The humans, sensing victory, unleashed their final assault, hitting the Dominion fleet with overwhelming force. One by one, the Dominion ships began to fall, their destruction marking the end of the war. The news spread like wildfire across Earth: the Dominion had been defeated. For the first time in history, a species from a planet once considered a backwater had taken on the might of an empire spanning across the galaxy, and won. On Earth's capital, in front of millions, a human leader stood before a massive screen, watching as the last Dominion vessel exploded in space. He raised his hand high and shouted, "This is the victory of humanity. Our world, our future, is ours once again." The crowd erupted into ecstatic cheers. Earth was free. Kelter stood on the bridge of Varnok's Fist, watching as the final remnants of his fleet were destroyed by the relentless onslaught of human forces. The battle was over. The Dominion was defeated. The humans had won. For the first time in his life, Kelter felt a bitter sense of defeat. He had been wrong. He had all been wrong. Humanity, the species he had underestimated, had not just fought back, they had shattered the very foundations of his empire. The Dominion was dead. What had once been an unstoppable force that ruled the galaxy with an iron grip now lay in ruins. The surviving Dominion ships, those that had not been utterly destroyed in the battle for Earth, fled into the dark void, leaderless, lost. Their empire, one that had stood for millennia, had been shattered by a species they had once mocked. And at the heart of it all, humanity stood victorious. On Earth, the celebration stretched from one continent to another. Cities that had been bracing for annihilation were now alight with joy, the people chanting, laughing, embracing one another. They had not just survived, they had won. But in the war room beneath Earth's surface, where humanity's leaders and generals gathered, there was no time for rest. The war had been won, but the next step was just beginning. "We have a choice," Admiral Rain said, his voice calm but firm as he addressed the assembled leaders. "We can sit back and wait for the next threat to come, or we take the fight to the remnants of the Dominion and secure our place among the stars." The room was silent for a long moment. No one doubted that the Dominion's empire was crumbling. But even a shattered beast could still be dangerous. If the Dominion remnants were allowed to regroup, they could rebuild, they could come back stronger. The war would not truly be over until humanity ensured that the Dominion could never rise again. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would not simply defend Earth, they would expand. They would push into the stars, not as victims, not as a species fighting for survival, but as a power that could not be ignored. Meanwhile, in the wreckage of the Dominion's last fleet, Commander Kelter drifted among the stars. Varnok's Fist, once the pride of the Dominion Armada, was now a shattered husk, its systems failing, its crew either dead or surrendering. Kelter had never known such shame. He had spent his entire life believing in the Dominion's supremacy. That belief had crumbled before his eyes. The humans had done the impossible. They had not only survived the Dominion's wrath, they had crushed it. As the last escape pods drifted away, Kelter remained behind, staring out at the stars. He thought about what would come next. The Dominion was finished. But what of the humans? Would they take the throne that the Dominion had once held? Would they become conquerors, ruling through fear and destruction? Or would they forge something new? A voice crackled through the ship's failing speakers. "Commander Kelter, this is Captain Hunt of the United Earth Fleet. Your ship is disabled. Surrender now." Kelter exhaled slowly. He had no fight left in him. "You have already won, human. Do what you will." A brief silence followed. Then Hunt's voice came through again. "Prepare for boarding. You will be treated as a prisoner of war, with dignity. Unlike your Dominion, we do not slaughter those who surrender." Kelter closed his eyes. Even in victory, the humans were unpredictable. He had expected death. Instead, he was given something he never thought possible. Mercy. Months later, the first human ships left Earth's solar system, venturing deep into former Dominion space. Some systems had already begun to collapse into chaos without the Dominion's control. Others welcomed the humans, relieved to be free from oppression. Humanity did not come as conquerors. They came as builders. They came as liberators. Where the Dominion had ruled through fear, humanity offered alliances. They shared technology, helped rebuild shattered worlds, and formed pacts with species that had once been under the Dominion's yoke. Humanity had proven its strength. But it was not strength alone that made them different, it was their spirit. Their ability to adapt. Their willingness to fight for something greater than themselves. No longer was Earth just another backwater planet in the galaxy. It was now the center of a new era. And as humanity spread across the stars, one message became clear. They had been underestimated. They had been mocked. They had been attacked. But they had fought back. And they had won.